In the pages that follow, you'll find 28 different mystery scenarios, but when you investigate the crimes alongside Holmes, you will not be able to eliminate the impossible, for in some of these stories, the impossible does happen. That's the idea behind this volume, to showcase the best Holmes pastiches of the last 30 years, mixing the best straight-up mystery stories with the best of those tales tinged with the fantastic, meaning that some of the cases you'll read about have prosaic solutions, while others will have a decidedly more fantastic resolution. Whether you're already quite familiar with the great detective, or you're just now going to be reading about him for the first time, whether you're primarily a fan of mysteries or primarily a fan of fantasy and science fiction, welcome. Holmes' world is big enough for all of us. A Sherlockiana Primer by Christopher Roden. Fog swirls thickly in the streets, its gloom penetrated from time to time by the weak gleam of a gaslight. A hansom cab grinds its steady way through the murk. There are occasional shouts from vendors and street urchins, whistles as policemen go about their business. It is the London of 1895, the London that will bring a stream of unusual characters to 221B Baker Street, seeking help from the world's first and greatest consulting detective, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. When Arthur Conan Doyle, 1859 to 1930, first created the great detective, little did he know that he was beginning a series of stories that would still be read some 120-odd years later. But Conan Doyle was an inventive writer, and the characters that filled his stories gripped the imagination of his readers, who devoured episode after episode of the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. In many ways, the characters of the Holmes stories are often more interesting than the cases themselves. So, who are the major players on the Baker Street stage? Putting Holmes himself aside, for Holmes is recognizable even to people unfamiliar with the stories themselves, Dr. John H. Watson has to be given pride of place. A veteran of the Second Afghan War, Watson, who served as a duty surgeon, had been injured by a Jezail bullet at the Battle of Maiwand, and saved from certain capture by the courage of his orderly, known to us only as Murray. Pain and illness followed, and an urgent return to England became necessary. Watson naturally gravitated to London, where, following an introduction by a former colleague, Stamford, he made the acquaintance of Sherlock Holmes. It did not take the two long to decide to share rooms in Baker Street. Throughout the adventures, Watson is the ever-faithful companion, willing to accompany Holmes at a moment's notice. He is never as smart as Holmes. Indeed, his conclusions are often considerably off the mark, and Conan Doyle cleverly does not allow Watson to appear more perceptive than his readers. But without Watson there would be no Holmes stories, for Watson chronicled Holmes's adventures and made Holmes famous by publishing them for the reading public in the Strand magazine. Although Holmes knew that he could always rely on Watson's companionship and assistance, even a detective as astute as Holmes occasionally needed the wisdom and advice of others. But whose knowledge and deductive skills would be sufficient to assist our genius hero? Obviously, someone who shared Holmes's faculties of deduction and analysis, possibly to an even greater degree. For that person, we need look no further than Holmes's older brother Mycroft. Mycroft is an unusual character indeed, a larger-than-life figure who spends his days passing between his lodgings in Pall Mall, his office in Whitehall, and the Diogenes Club, the queerest club in London. It came as something of a surprise to Dr. Watson to discover that Holmes had a brother at all, and he could never have dreamed of Mycroft's influence on national affairs. Occasionally, Holmes told Watson, he is The British.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.